In today's video, we are going to be exploring the magnificence of what Bitcoin does for you every single day. Yes, there is volatility, and yes, we know that it bounces from 126 right back down to 80. That's a massive volatile movement. But my friends, what do you do in those times? What do you do when Bitcoin goes up and goes down and creates the volatility that we're seeing? It gives us opportunity to understand that we can accumulate this incredible asset at incredibly low prices right now. I see us possibly coming a little bit lower. So in today's video, I'm going to show you a few of my charts, my Ethereum trade, and what it is that I see that will help us navigate, the one single indicator that will help us navigate where it is that we're going in the next few months over 2026. Because my friends, the 4-year cycle, it's done for. When institutions started coming in and all of the banks started rolling in, that is when Bitcoin changed. And guess what? All things are on 4-year cycles. Sports, Olympics, soccer, rugby, cricket, so on and so forth. Business cycles are generally 4-year cycles. However, the one tool and the one indicator I'm going to share with you later on in this video, so make sure to stay tuned with me right to the very end, is going to navigate you to the time zone that you need to understand of where we're at, because this indicator has never failed to tell us when the bull will start. Let's go and have a look. But before I do so, make sure you're subscribed to the Crypto Bliss community. I did say to you, we could expect, is crypto going to crash or soar in 2025 into 2026? Go check that video out. I will leave it pinned in the card above for you. But at the end of the day, we are going to see some incredible things. Now, just very quickly and off topic, I've been moving and shifting, so I just really haven't had time to focus on this channel. But coming into this roll-off period in December, man, you guys better be watching this channel. Best be subscribed to this channel, because I'm going to be pumping videos with you, and I'm not going to do so much editing. I'm going to give them to you raw and mostly unedited and unfiltered. Okay, so thank you for being here with me on the Crypto Bliss community. And if you appreciate me bringing the content to you, doing the crazy things that I'm doing, well then obliterate that like button. Now, let's not waste another single second. Let's delve right in. I'm going to start off with this post from Ran, my fellow South African crypto from Crypto Banter. And he's speaking about the 4-year cycle as a lie. The real bull market only starts now. This is a lot of good information here, but I'm going to also share with you exactly what else matters to give us the deciding factor that the 4-year cycles weren't necessarily a lie. They were around, but the cycle has changed because the markets have changed around Bitcoin, and everybody in the banking system, especially the US banking system and the international powers that be, are actually scattering to buy Bitcoin right now. And you're probably wondering, well, that's not true. Well, why would it be? Why would the price not be soaring like I put for you on my video here? Is it going to crash or is it going to soar? Well, we're going to delve into this. So stick with me and you'll see in a short moment exactly why. So shout out to Ran. And so what you can see here is, even though the Bitcoin top happened, I'm going to read what he's written here for us so that we can understand the view. I do agree with it, but I think there's more to add to it. So even though Bitcoin top happened exactly at the end of the 4-year cycle, the data shows it was a lie and that there was another driver that coincidentally lined up at exactly the same time. The uncomfortable truth is that the data is that the halving didn't drive the last 3 bull markets. It only lined up perfectly with the real driver, global liquidity expansion, which I do agree. And you'll see here, that's global liquidity expansion, right? Global liquidity expansion, global liquidity expansion. So we'll touch base. So 2013 Fed QE, 2017 ECB, BOJ, and China pumping. 2020, the biggest QE in history. Bitcoin followed liquidity, not the halving clock. Always Bitcoin will follow liquidity. I have always said that to you on this channel. Bitcoin follows the liquidity because we have proven that time and time again that it lags behind the M2 by 10 to 12 weeks odd. Okay. Every time there was a global liquidity surge, the economy expanded, and this flowed into crypto. And why would that happen? Because if there's more money available, people would take more risks in a volatile asset like Bitcoin, okay? Helping them hopefully make returns if they really knew what they were doing. Now, the one metric that exposes this clearly is the PMI, the manufacturing index, right? So PMI 50, above 50 is a contraction, below 50 is a recovery, above 55 is Bitcoin liftoff, and above 60 is altcoin mania. Now I do like that and I do agree with that. We'll use this data in a short little moment. That sequence matched every bull market. The reason this cycle was so disappointing is that this cycle broke the pattern. The halving happened, liquidity hasn't happened because the Fed has been squeezing every last little drop of liquidity out of that towel that they are wringing right now. And the Fed was still draining money through QT, right? That's why 2025 was messy. The liquidity cycle never started. And that's why 2025, actually, there were so many more things than just liquidity problems. I'm sure you, in your personal life, your family's life, where you know somebody that's gone through a tremendous amount of struggle through this year. If you are one of those people, boom, shout out, obliterate the like button. If you are one of the people that have progressed and grown and found success and a way to navigate your life and become good at investing in yourself and your life and for your family, obliterate the like button. Now, of course, if you have been subscribed to the Crypto Bliss community, you would know that we have been showing you over time that there are important factors that Bitcoin and Ethereum really are the number one. So right now, the majority of my portfolio is actually Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and stable at the moment. I do have a number of altcoins. Unfortunately, with this drop here, those bags bled to death, really. But the point is that I'll use my dry powder that I've now accumulated to scoop up a bit more when I do see that we will recover. I don't see that we're going to recover immediately. However, we are coming because at least on the 1st of December, QT ended. So that's a good sign. But QE has started, but very subtly. And here's when I will tell you it will start in a short little moment. QT ended, rates going down, liquidity turning, PMI bottoming, institutions flowing in via ETFs and DATs, and historically, we've never entered a bear market while liquidity is expanding. So maybe the 4-year cycle didn't break. Maybe it's never existed to begin with. It's just happened to develop with the liquidity cycle, and then maybe the real bull market starts. I believe that Satoshi was so in tune and in sync that Bitcoin was launched at the worst possible time in the 2008, going into 2009 bear market that we had, and Bitcoin ended up becoming an asset that essentially people were experimenting with at that point in time, and it ended up coinciding with the money printing that came thereafter, the QE that came thereafter that massive crash in 2008, 2009. Because ever since then, the liquidity drive, and I will show you on the M2 here, because on the M2, first of all, you can see that we're exploding above all-time highs. I did this very long time ago, and I'll touch base in this in a short little moment. But as you can see here, from 2008 and 2009, okay, first of all, on the M2, we've never really gone down. This was the worst tightening we've seen in probably 60, 70 years. I can't even tell you. We don't even have that kind of tightening that's ever happened in the history of the world, my friends. So they had to try and do something to prevent an absolute skyrocketing rally like this under circumstances when left, right, red, blue were kind of doing their thing. Now, if we come back to the year that Bitcoin was launched, 2008, 2009, have a look at around this area. Look at what happened here. Okay? It just went absolutely parabolic thereafter. And we literally, until, we haven't stopped, but until 2020, we had this massive rally. That's 11 years of just pump. And then we had this massive event, COVID-19, of course, and then all of a sudden, stimulation of the economy. And look at how much liquidity came into this. Now, the one thing that I want to share with you here, okay, is that I pointed out to us months and months and months and months ago. In fact, I drew this somewhere here, and I think it was around this time, yeah, December 2023 already, okay, somewhere around this area that I did it. But I drew this flag for us because this was essentially a flag that we could see that was ultimately developing here. If you have a look, and boom, there you go, and it wasn't quite that, but there you go. Okay. And if you want me to draw it again for you, I will do that. There's the flagpole. And as you can see, we're actually looking even deeper now. So we'll leave that second flagpole and I'll go based on my original. But basically where we're at right now is about $22.3 trillion in M2 money supply. This flag tells us that we could expect sometime, I mean, we said November 2025, but that hasn't quite happened yet now, my friends, has it? So I would expect it to probably happen at the end of 2026. And at that point, we could see the liquidity go up to 27, the M2 go up to 27. But really, I think we could probably go a lot higher because stimmy checks are coming. And Trump is about to give people stimmy checks in 2026. And that is going to happen before the midterms. So sometime in April, May, usually we say sell and may go away. I would presume it's probably going to be sometime around that time. And then we're going to see this massive rally through. Now, what I do want to caution us with is the following. Usually when it starts to tumble is when Bitcoin, the liquidity starts to flow out of gold and into Bitcoin. Now, bearing in mind, we have a shooting star here. However, that shooting star closed in volume above the previous month's candle. Okay. And this one hasn't yet. I wouldn't be surprised if we just capitulate here for a moment. But the truth be told is that December and January are usually in India and China and across the world are generally, because it's a sacred moment, we won't go into that, across the world, it's the time where a lot of gold is actually bought by individuals. And as we know, gold and silver bullion sellers have been absolutely flooded and inundated in some regions across the world. Really, the truth here, my friends, is that I don't see us on the gold train stopping because the liquidity will probably, with M2, they're going to go to the safest asset first. And the safest asset, according to the total assets by market cap, is actually gold. Gold is sitting at $29 trillion right now, my friends. I would presume that gold is probably going to do double, more or less, where it's going right now, where it is at right now. It's sitting at 4,000. I would not be surprised if we went and we shot up to about 8,000 to 10,000. I think 8,000 would be quite reasonable. Now, you're going to say, well, what the hell is this dude smoking? I'd like to get some of that. Well, first of all, let's pull out the Fibonacci from the previous retracement that I have been speaking to you about. We have not yet hit the 4.618 on this level. Now, we had this crazy liquidity pump in here, right? The point is that we're at capitulation. We're finding support at this area here. M2 money, as I have just shown you, is going up. So what? So why would you not want to ensure that you're going to capture some of the liquidity? Now, of course, with gold, I mean, maybe it doesn't go double. I mean, I've just said it can go to 4,000, okay? To, I mean, about 8,000 to 10,000, which is quite high. So if we were to go anywhere near that, I certainly believe at the very least 5,000 to 6,000 is going to be the very, very least. Now, at that point, I mean, gold currently looks like a freaking altcoin, guys. So once gold has finished its pump, that liquidity will come into Bitcoin. But for now, my friends, I still think that we're going to see another pump up on gold. Gold has continued to go from $23 trillion. It's added another $6 trillion in the last kind of month and a half. I would expect gold to continue higher. Why I'm saying that is also, you can see the Bitcoin dominance. The Bitcoin dominance isn't going anywhere. We could probably come up a little bit higher on the Bitcoin dominance. However, we are struggling at this resistance level here right now. I would expect us to capitulate in this area. That's about it for the Bitcoin dominance. So over time, you can see that really the point is that every gold rally ends with a super cycle in Bitcoin. So as you can see, gold rally, super cycle in Bitcoin. Gold rally, super cycle in Bitcoin. Gold rally has happened. However, I don't believe it's finished. I think we're going to really pump up a little bit higher on gold and kind of capitulate on Bitcoin. And I'm going to show you where I believe the price target for Bitcoin will end up going to. Bitcoin capitulation metric just hit a new all-time high. The last time Bitcoin went up 50% when this happened. So tighten your seatbelts. Well, have a look here. So capitulation metric and current price. So capitulation metric, pump. Capitulation metric, dump. Capitulation metric, dump. Capitulation metric, pump. Capitulation metric, the highest of them all. Do we pump or dump? Because as much as Vivek is saying this has been a 50-50, my friends. Yes, this one, pump. Yes, this one, a little pump here. So maybe 70% pump and 30% dump. I would expect us still at this point to drop a little, and I'm going to show you why. However, if you have a long-term mindset, then this is going to give you comfort. So as you can see, the orange is where we're at today. We have yet to actually have, call it the blow off top, call it whatever you like, but we have yet to have it. We could sit still as long as this, I mean, but we're really getting close. I would say that this is probably the average of the turning point on the previous bull cycles. So we still probably have until March to, May to July next year, which is what I was saying earlier on, right? Would you agree with that? If you do, obliterate the like button on the Crypto Bliss community, because Bitcoin, and shout out to Rajat Soni. I love this dude. I do watch him often. He's very much clued up on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin will run out at every price. The supply has already run out at 1 cent, 10 cents, $1, $10, $100, $1,000, $10,000. And soon it'll never come below the $100,000 point. I do agree with that.
But in my mind I whisper every single word you say. And before you sleep at night, you pray to me, your lucky star, you're singing satellite. You're singing satellite.
you notice how slow it's going once it kind of peaks out, and how flat it goes, and for how long it goes flat for?
Single word you say, and before you sleep at night, you pray to me, your lucky star, you're singing.
Really good chart, right? And you can see that the blow of tops essentially average out at the median or the base of the bear market, essentially showing us where price action averages out. So, my friends, currently, we're at $93 odd thousand. What are you going to do about stacking your Bitcoin stacks? If you want to get some Bitcoin and Ethereum and get yourself a deposit bonus, use my Bybit link down in the description of this video below and grab yourself some Bitcoin, store it on your hardware wallet, also a link down in the description of the video below, and come and absolutely just, you can see the price as at its average will never go back to its old points, and 100k is the next level, and thereafter is the $1 million, my friends. Where do you think we're going to? This is going to blow your mind out the water, and this is why. Because a fun fact, if you've held Bitcoin for over 3 years, your odds of losing money were basically zero. This is why we hodl. So, as you can see, if you held Bitcoin for 1 day, yes, you're at risk. 1 week, you're at risk. 1 month, you're at risk. 1 quarter, you're at risk. 1 year, even, you're at risk. 3 years, 0.7% risk. 5 years, 0.2% risk. 10 years, you got zero risk, my friends. Now, why would you not obtain an asset that gives you zero risk over a long period of time and the craziest returns of 40, 50, 60% on average over that time period? Now imagine what's going to happen with the liquidity that is about to come in from the M2 money supply. Now I'm going to show you something that is going to absolutely shock you. So make sure to stay tuned. But before I do, make sure you're subscribed to the Crypto Bliss community. Let's go and have a quick squiz at my trades. You can see here, I'm not in any Bitcoin trade, and nor have I actually put any buy limits or sell limits at this point. If we do happen to run up, 100k is going to be my area where I possibly could look at some selling pressure because of the amount of horizontal and upward and downward sloping resistance that we have. However, I do have my Ethereum trade open, and from yesterday's dump, it is now a little bit in the red. Okay, that is okay. I'm okay with it. I will dollar cost average into my Ethereum as we fall down, because I don't think Ethereum really has nearly as much potential of the downside than what Bitcoin has. Okay, I think Ethereum really is bottoming out at this point. Maybe at the maximum it could kind of come down to 2,400, 2,200, but that is exactly why I have added additional buy limits down here, which will then move my liquidation underneath my stop loss. So you can see that I'm just keeping myself open to breathing room, because yes, we've been rejected out of this falling wedge, which is actually a bullish pattern. We've been rejected out of the top of it now, so this was a little fake out at this point. And if we do continue to see the downward momentum, my friends, we are coming down to 2,200 to 2,400 on Ethereum. If we do happen to find support here on this level, which is also a good level of support, we are on the support, which gives us an indication that we could potentially rally up. But if we were to potentially rally up, I would expect us to go from where we at about 3,000 right now to the most at about $3,550 to $3,600 into this area here at the absolute most. That's about it. But what's going to scare the epic out of you right now? Okay, we're going to talk about two things here. We don't talk about Bruno. All right. So this is the US ISM manufacturing prices. Now you will see Bitcoin follows this to the T. Now, bearing in mind, we're not going to look at the data from 2009 because that's why Bitcoin went from the small to a couple dollars. Okay. We're going to start to have a look from 11 onwards. Okay. When we look at January, Friday, 1 January 2016, let's go and have a look here. Okay. Look at what happened here on January 2016, right? We stopped, we were hovering, and look at the major rally that came thereafter. When we look at that level, okay, here is this area, 31, literally to the day, okay, sorry, to the month, guys, 31 Jan 2016. Boom, look at this rally up here, which is a buy zone when the ISM hits the bottom. It's a buy zone because then it sends Bitcoin right to the top. And 1st of December 2017, would you like me to show you the top of this area? Yeah, it's not quite the same, but it gave you an indication. Okay. Actually, when we look at the indication, that one, January, we're already there. So, you know, the sell, you must be careful. But the buying opportunity here is telling us when it hits the bottom, that's when you buy Bitcoin. When it hits the top, take some profits. Okay. Now, if we go back and we have a look at the next one. The next one was 1st of April 2020. Okay. 1st of April. Well, this is the 30th of April 2020, right? Massive rally. What do you see here? Into April. Look at that massive green candle. And then boom, look at this rally up. Now let's go compare this. So this was April 21. And this was, when was this date? June 21. So we can't predict when the ISM is going to start flattening out. But look at that. That's an indication right there. All you need to know is that when the ISM starts coming into the 77, 78 region, that's probably when you want to start taking some profits on Bitcoin. Okay. This is probably the most accurate indication of how the global liquidity comes into the factor when jobs and all of that are low and there's low liquidity in the markets. We get stretched out. Let's go and look at one more example. Okay. 2 more examples. November 22. 1 November 22. Okay. What's this date? Here you go. 30 November 2022. Look at that. Boom. Look at this massive pump here. Okay. That literally went from 15,000 right up to 75,000. Pretty much all in one go. Let's go and have a look at the next one. Okay. That one is Sunday, 1 September 2024. More liquidity was pumped into the market. Look at this. 30 September 2024. And look at this little spike in the sprout of ISM manufacturing, right? Look at that. That's what we had from the ISM manufacturing. So ISM manufacturing was telling us here, okay, when we got to the 70 zone, the 70 zone is a hard resistance area on the ISM manufacturing. I would be very cautious of that area, right? 70 is that resistance. So right now, that's why we pulled back. That's why we've pulled back. It is indicating that we're trying to get up a little bit more. However, I do want to caution you, my friends, because for whatever reason, it could be one last little flash out here. We could see Bitcoin drop down on its ass, okay? And this is where I'm going to show you where we could end up going to. Now, if we come down to the daily time frame here, have a look at this, okay? We're in a downward sloping wedge pattern, okay? We've drawn this a few times together already. I'm not going to go over and over and over and over again. That's a downward sloping wedge pattern. However, there is a problem with this downward sloping wedge pattern because, as you can see, we're actually currently forming a bear flag. And this pole comes from that zone. So if we are to break out of that zone, isn't it so ironic that we come down to my box that I've drawn here for us. And if we go onto the weekly time frame, just for a little bit more of a zoomed out effect, have a look at where that box ironically brings us to. Now, does that classify as a bear market or a retest? Honestly, it's so volatile in that aspect that if we were to pull that, that would be a 53% pullback. That's really, it's going into bear market territory, but that's nowhere near the 75 to 95% that Bitcoin has previously had. So that really would be an overextension of the bear market. I would expect us, and if we do come back down to the all-time high, yeah, that's a bear market, my friends. That literally is a bear market, and then that was the peak for the short time. But it doesn't mean that we've gone into this icy cold market like this. It just means that we're finding some solidarity and some support on a very strong level, which I want to just give you an indication right now. With all of the FUD between JP Morgan, Vanguard coming back into the picture and saying that they'll buy these assets and let their clients buy these assets, the number of points that we have to understand in this market are actually as follows. They are trying to keep the boat at the harbor anchored down so that it doesn't rally, so that these institutions could obtain Bitcoin at a much lower price. Now, where does that bring my Bitcoin price to? Well, 60,000 to possibly 55,000. Okay, somewhere in this zone, 60,000 to 55,000. If we are to get there, that's where I will add a good amount to my buying. Now, this candle, if we close something like this, really it is telling us that this is a continuation of the bearish pattern that we've been experiencing, and it hasn't quite given us the signs like this has to tell us, well, there's actually more buying momentum that comes in here. So I would proceed with caution. I would say to you that we're at one of the most critical moments right now in Bitcoin. And if you want to know more, and if you love this video, show some appreciation, share it with your friends and family, obliterate the like button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for being part of the Crypto Bliss community. I appreciate you, and we'll check you on the next one.